please join me as we welcome the one and only Dr. Timo.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on
Thank you so much.
your new status. It's so interesting. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Prof. I stand on the existing protocol, and then I want to appreciate the association for the honor of this invite and to speak. It's quite strange to me because looks like a few weeks ago from me that I just completed this PhD, and then I'm speaking here. It's God's grace, and I'm grateful for it. Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. I feel really honored to have this opportunity, and thank you so much. However, I feel a little challenged that I have to speak immediately after Prof. Marafa because I really do not know what to say, because it's covered everything, and when your father speaks, what does the son have to say? So I'm just going to chip in a little thing that I'm able to, because Prof covered everything, and including how to navigate in the academic landscape of Hong Kong. That's the topic they gave to me. Yeah, so very quickly, without much ado, I'm supposed to, how does this thing work?
It's working.
Navigating the academic landscape of Hong Kong, that's what I'm supposed to talk about. And I'll try as much as possible to be brief. I have broken what I'm going to speak about into three main headings: paradigm shift in your mind, peculiarities of transition in the academia in Hong Kong. Why I'm talking about paradigm shifts in the mind is because if we don't have a change of mind, we probably will not get to that point where we'll be navigating the academic landscape in Hong Kong. There is a mentality that I think it affected me because, of course, whatever I'm going to say today will be quite in relation to my personal experiences, right? So when I got to Hong Kong with the mindset of, get this PhD. I was working in the rest of Lagos. I was on study leave with pay, So it was like, let me finish PhD, and then I'll go and take up my job. That was the mindset when I was boarding the flight. Then I landed in Hong Kong, and then I look back. It's like, oh no, I couldn't go back to Nigeria, So the whole thing changed when I landed in Hong Kong. But if you don't have that point where you change your mind about Hong Kong, you probably would have some preconceived conclusions that would not allow you to want to navigate in the academia of Hong Kong. So first, you need to get to know Hong Kong. And Prof mentioned it, the President also mentioned it. Integrating with the HK community. The people here already, of course, you're practicing this. There's a family that you have to create, and then we work together. You need to understand Hong Kong, and this would only be better when you have a community. Don't be a lone ranger. Also, I said visit tourist sites and have fun. That was also mentioned earlier on. I think the President mentioned that. You can't just continue to study alone without getting to know Hong Kong. There are so many beautiful places in Hong Kong. You need to take time out while you are studying to really get to know the city. So I have some other parts I want to dwell on, so I won't waste time on this part. Then visit other parts of HK. When I got to Hong Kong, because I studied in Poly, I was in Onham, and then that was the only area I was familiar with. Onham was so congested, you don't want to stay in Hong Kong when you view Hong Kong from that perspective. So you need to understand that Hong Kong has other parts, like the New Territory, where some persons live. Like Dr. K at the back there now lives in a very massive apartment. The New Territory. So if you view Hong Kong from the perspective of, so tiny houses, just one room and all of that, you probably would not, you have a wrong view of Hong Kong. I also live in New Territory, and when I get home from the hustle and bustle of the day, it's like my home welcomes me. It's like I'm back in Lagos with some good space. That really helps. But if you return from work or from your study, and then it's always that tiny space, soon enough, you're going to be tired of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is really, really congested. However, it's not just about that. You need to view Hong Kong from a different perspective. And this will warrant that you need to visit other places in Hong Kong. thank God we're in city Chinese Sea right now, which is also in the, is it new territory?
Yes.
Yeah.
New territory. Okay, so you can see the green, you know, so you feel you have a different opinion of Hong Kong when you visit other places. No, do not conclude that Hong Kong is just a transition city. So the moment I landed in Hong Kong and I couldn't go back to, I didn't think I should go back to Nigeria. The next thing that was on my mind was finish the PhD and then you move to the next city. I think that is very popular amongst PhD students in Hong Kong. We view Hong Kong as that point where, oh, I've escaped from Nigeria. I need to head somewhere because I really don't like this city. Oh, the language barrier. Oh, we just focus on all of the difficult, the challenges of Hong Kong. There are challenges, yes. However, it is not just a transition city. And there's a reason for it. Reasons are that it's really difficult to transition after PhD. It's a major challenge because, of course, you have to, I'll get to that point in the course of my presentation. Hong Kong has much more to offer than just, oh, I bagged my degree and then I want to jack out, I want to jet out, I want to, oh, it's New Zealand, oh, it's Australia, oh, it's US, oh, it's Canada. Those cities are great. However, Hong Kong has an edge in the area of transportation, for instance. The fact that it's not, the people are not really ostentatious. You can just be yourself. You can save up money. Hong Kong has good tax system and all of that. So it's not just a place where you have to jump through to your destiny place. Of course, if that's what you really want to do, it's okay. However, it can be a place where you would have a family. Professor Marafa has been here for so many years, and I'm sure he's been blessed in Hong Kong. You can be that as well, rather than wanting to just get your degree and then you're off. Okay, so yeah, think less Nigeria, think more Hong Kong. A lot of persons, when we get to Hong Kong, we still, our minds are in Nigeria. But you're here in Hong Kong, you're in a different environment. How many persons know who is the president of Hong Kong, for instance? Do we really know who the president is? Okay, there's also a chief, but there's a chief executive. But there's Andrew Long.
Who?
There's one Andrew Long I saw online anyway. But there's a chief executive, yes, I think. What's the name of that one?
John Lee.
John Lee. Yes. So we are aware of Hong Kong. We are aware of what happens in Hong Kong. We are aware of what happens in Hong Kong. And the neighboring cities as well. Not all, everything happening in Nigeria. I wish Ibrahim was here, my friend from the hostel, when I got here. Everything we talk about is, oh, have you heard this thing on Twitter? Nigeria is trending. That's our discussion. You know, we Hong Kong. You're not settling in when you are that person. Be aware of the Hong Kong economy. There's something they call carousel, for instance. I know a couple of persons on carousel where you can do transactions. You know, for you to really enjoy the city, you really have to look from. It's about your lens. There's nowhere in the world that doesn't. Life is always with positive and negative. It's a bed of roses with thorns as well. So of course, as bad as we think Nigeria is, I mean, some positive sides to it. So Hong Kong does have positive side. So you now earn in Hong Kong dollars, stop converting to Naira. So a lot of times when we get here, you want to buy anything, you do the exchange. Oh, so how much is it? How can I buy this wristwatch? It's 2,000 Hong Kong dollar. Oh man, that's over 400,000 there. I send that one to Nigeria. You know how many people are, no, you don't have to do that all the time. There used to be a friend of mine, each time we go out here in Hong Kong, not Ibrahim. Not Ibrahim, I'm saying this actually. You know, this person, each time we go out in convoy, he has an attitude of, he delays us by loading his octopus every time at the MTR. And that's because he's always loading 50 Hong Kong dollars. So he finishes and then he's loading another one. He's loading every time. Why can't you load 1,000 Hong Kong dollars on your octopus card? It is your octopus card, you spend it. But because we have that mentality of, oh yeah, this is, you need to save money, you need to think of home and all of that. You're in Hong Kong, live like a Hong Kong guy. It should reflect on you. Your shoes should tell. Your outfit should tell that you are now abroad. So you should stop living in Nigeria. You can't live in Nigeria and Hong Kong. So be a global player by improving on your Nigerian accent. I said Nigerian accent deliberately because there's nothing wrong with Nigerian accent. What I'm speaking here is Nigerian accent. But really, if you are going to navigate in the academia in Hong Kong, you can't go there with local accents from Nigeria. The typical Yoruba accent, for instance, like yeah, please, good afternoon. No, I've come to tell you that all of those things would not. Imagine at your interview, you begin to sound like that. Now that you're in the international scene, you have to be conscious about this and improve on your own accent. The Nigerian accent is very beautiful. However, you have to speak the actual Nigerian accent, not the local accents from dialects and all of that. Invest in yourself by learning the language. So I wish I knew this while I got to Hong Kong. First, I didn't know that I was going to remain in Hong Kong. Anyways, I had the mindset that I was a transition city. So I didn't learn Cantonese. To make matters worse, my office mates were Chinese people. They were my friends. They taught me some Mandarin. But here I am. Mandarin is not so useful to me. It's Cantonese I should have learned. I later went to learn after PhD. I registered for a crash course and all that. But it's not really sticking because the times I should have used it while I was new, you know, when you arrive in Hong Kong, you are usually a little bit less busy compared to when the core PhD starts. So that period can be maximized in paying attention to the language, so that it's you're investing in yourself. You have learned another language. Then I put this picture of a man here who is focusing, focusing. That relates to my think less Nigeria, think more of Hong Kong. You can't be in Hong Kong and each time you are focusing on Hong Kong, you are turning back to Nigeria every time. You'll be confused. You're like this. I'm Christian. The Bible tells that looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of the faith. But unfortunately today, we have so many confused Christians because they look unto Jesus and then 1 minute they are looking back to Moses and all. Jesus, Moses. And then you go like this. Over time, your neck becomes strained. You need to focus. This is Hong Kong. Can you focus on Hong Kong? Can we get to really move out of Nigeria in our mind? Very quickly, so Hong Kong has new government policy, for instance, the work-study arrangement. I think Prof mentioned that, and the President also mentioned that. There's a work-study arrangement that helps you to make more money and helps you to settle in the city the more. While I started PhD in 2020, it wasn't there. The policy was not there. We couldn't work. But right now, you have that opportunity. Please maximize it and make some more money. Because as a PhD student, you'll be very busy. But I believe that PhD is one study that allows you to be the custodian of your own time. You can manage your time. I'm not resuming to work at certain time, close to certain time. I don't know for other people though, but my supervisor was really free with me. If I had the opportunity to work while I was studying, I would have done it. So work study arrangement. And then one other beautiful thing about Hong Kong is that you don't pay tax as a student. Even as a worker, if the tax is minimal, I now work in Hong Kong, it still feels like I don't pay tax. My HK auntie, I'll come back, I'm happy to see you. So I don't pay tax. I pay tax anyway, but it's minimal. That makes Hong Kong a pleasant place to live in, a place to save money. If you move to UK, for instance, I think tax in UK is about 30%. Other parts of the world, different tax systems. So that's that. For work study, you have up to 20 hours per week to work. And then in 2020, World Bank ranked Hong Kong as the country with the friendliest tax system. That's the reason to want to probably spend some more time in Hong Kong. So I said transition peculiarities. This is after PhD now. There's something about transition that we really need to pay attention to. Look at this picture, for instance. Transition comes with, you have a bleak future, you're not certain. There are challenges. You really do not know what the future holds immediately you finish PhD. So one thing that happens to most people is the period of identity crisis. It happened to me anyways, because you finish PhD and then people begin to address you as doctor so. But then you really that's not settled in your mind. So it has not really settled in your mind. People expect so much from you. You are still at that point where you feel, have I really done this PhD so well? Would I have done better with this research? Maybe I should have published here. Maybe I should have done all that. So there's that transition point comes with that crisis where you are not really certain what step you should take. So that's a peculiarity. Then there's a cost of relocation and the challenges of relocation. That's why I believe that when you finish PhD, I don't think the next thing you want to do is to just, oh yes, I got a job in New Zealand or Singapore, and then I want to escape to all those places, because the relocation comes with its own challenges. Then you are still at that stage of identity crisis. You have not really settled in. It just multiplies the trouble. For me, for instance, when I finished PhD, I had some savings, probably I can't remember how much. Was it so much money? It would be like 40,000 Hong Kong dollars. Because in my mind, I want to travel, I want to leave Hong Kong, I want to relocate. But it would not have been enough. Most persons relocated out of Hong Kong usually would have to borrow from people. We hear some of the G's going to so much debt and all of that. But if you settle in Hong Kong for a bit, it helps. For me now, when I got the job, Grace helped me. I got the job before I finished PhD. So I had so much money to travel around. I enjoyed my life because there's a job, I don't have to relocate out of Hong Kong. And then I was still trying to understand my PhD status. And then I had some extra cash, which I was able to go see family in UK and all of that. So you need to consider the fact that there's a cost that is associated with relocation. So it's not the best time immediately after PhD, my personal opinion. So the academic landscape in Hong Kong, this is what they said I should come and talk about. So I'm now there. Sorry, my talk will be short, but my journey to the top was a little long. So identify the goalpost. In Hong Kong, for instance, Hong Kong is very pacey a city, it's a busy place. But in any organization you find yourself, not necessarily in academia, you need to identify the goalpost so you know how to score. So maybe not at your interview, but the moment you start up in any organization, in the academia, you need to know the step you need to take to get promoted, to get to the next level. You came in probably as a senior lecturer. How do you become an assistant professor? How do you become an associate professor? Those are questions you need to ask. Where do I publish? What journal do I need to publish? I finished from sciences, for instance, and then I got a job in a business school. And then I found out that all of my SCI journals, Q1 I've been chasing as a PhD student, wasn't relevant to them. What was relevant was that they have the ABS journals. ABS journals. So you need to identify, okay, so these are the places that I need to publish. If I didn't check that, and then my publications after PhD, I would have sent them to SCI journals. Oh, I want Q1. Whereas it will be useful for my promotion. So you need to identify what is required of you in every organization, especially in the academia. Then identify your team members. Prof mentioned it that you need to have a community even in your own office. You cannot work alone. You find out, for instance, look at this football pitch now. There are people in white, there are people in red. You need to know who to pass your ball to. You need to know who is on your side. Otherwise, you would just have issues. The Chinese have similarities with Africans. They are diplomatic people, they are emotional people as well. So you need to find out who really is on your side that you can collaborate with. Who is in your research area? Who has the research interest similar to yours? Who has research knowledge that would improve yours? For instance, all of these things. Hong Kong, for instance, now they are quite ahead in terms of research, artificial intelligence and stuff like that. You need to be digitalized. So all of this you must find out at the start of your academic journey in Hong Kong. So I said Hong Kong is generally pacey, is in the haste. We are 7 hours ahead of Nigeria. It's not just in terms of time zone. It also affects the people. Hong Kong is there, everyone is running. So if you are going to really thrive in the academia in Hong Kong, you need to understand that you have to run faster as well. You need to publish on time. You need to join that you need to run at the pace that the country also runs. The Chinese people are very hardworking people. You must understand that. So to navigate in the academia, you must understand that there are working people that are very, very hardworking. The dean of the School of Business where I work, for instance, sometimes when I'm in the office at past 10, this man is still in the office. He's a professor emeritus. You know, almost lives in school. You see, at 10 p.m., closing time is 5 p.m. But at 10 p.m., you still see people around, they are busy on their computer. You know, so really you have to understand that they are very hardworking people. You also need to cultivate that habit of working very hard. They have relatively poor work-life balance. So yes, coming into the academia, be ready to adjust to poor work-life balance. It's something that is very key. You can't come with the mindset of, for instance, me who was lecturing in University of Lagos, it was just whatever you like you do. Nobody really checks. Nobody cares. I set my questions, my exam questions, the way I like, submit to my HOD, and it just goes through. But in any where I work, it goes through moderation. You submit I set my questions, I submit to another colleague. Sometimes those colleagues are even junior to me. Some of them are not even senior lecturers. But you submit to them, they be the one to moderate your work. After then, it goes to the HOD. So all of these things, it just makes the work rather complicated. But it is achievable. We are not weak people as well. We are smart people. So you must just be prepared. Change your mind. Okay, so this is the reality. I have to work in that reality. Then I said the place of diplomacy. Africans, we are very diplomatic people, especially Yorubas. Diplomacy is very key, and do not lose it. For instance, my office says I resume by 10 a.m. and close by 5 p.m., which is okay. Actually 4 p.m., which is okay. But do you know that sometimes my lecture begins by 9 a.m.? And to get to the class by 9 a.m. means I have to be out of my house probably by 7. Sometimes I have lectures from 7 to 10 p.m. So of course, they don't stick to what is already stated on paper. That's where diplomacy comes in. Sometimes I cannot meet up with resuming by 10 a.m. So what do? I understand the entry that I to use when I get late to the office. So I find out that entry that nobody cares, nobody sees it, and sneak in at those times. Yes, it's part of the diplomacy. And then when I want to close, when I'm closing late, the day I'm going to stay later than the regular time, I know the exit through which I'm going to go. So I make sure I flounce it. Everybody knows that, oh, Timo is in the office till 10 p.m. I walk around, say hello to people. How you still here? Yes, I still have some things to clear from my desk. That's the diplomacy. It helps them to understand that, oh, you are actually interested in this work. The day I'm going to, of course, I'm not saying I go late to the office, but the days that I couldn't help it, probably because I closed so late last night, left the office by 10 p.m. from Homanton all the way to Yulong. Sometimes I get to my house the next day, past 12 midnight, and you expect me to resume by 10 in the morning the next day. I probably will not be able to. Maybe I'm coming by past 12, but I will not get to the office by past 12, and then I'm flaunting that I'm arriving late. Sometimes I quickly get my lunch, and when I'm coming in, the lunch bag is what I'm holding firm, so that if everybody sees me, oh, how are you? Hi, Timo. Yeah, I went to get lunch. I just get lunch. It's the diplomacy that you really need to hold on to. Also, you find out who to talk to. You find out what to say at every time. There's a way we handle the students in Africa that differs from what happens here in Hong Kong. In Africa, in Nigeria, the lecturer is the boss. Well, you're in charge. You do whatever you like. And punish the student. Get out of my class. You can't do that here in Hong Kong. So you have to understand that the students are really prioritized here, and those are the peculiarities. Then quickly, the grant requirements. Yes, I'm already rounding up. There is a grant requirement in the academia in Hong Kong. As a starter, you need to acquire grants. You must get grants. But unfortunately, during PhD, I think most persons are not familiar with the grant application. For me, I'm not sure for other people, but for me, my supervisor had funding, so there was no time that I ever saw a grant application. And I think it's also something that they don't blow in the open when they write for grants. But as a PhD student, if you want to go into the academia, you may want to pay attention to grant applications now. So maybe ask questions, whoever is applying for grants within your school, find out what they do, so that by the time you get into the academia and you have a need for it, you are not a novice, you have done it before. Then publication tricks. I said reserve some of your data for post-PhD use. So if you are going to go into the academia, you will continue to publish. But in Hong Kong, as a PhD student, you want to churn out papers. You hear news of people who published 35 articles in the course of their PhD, they published 50 and all of that. And you want to join that bandwagon to publish all of your papers, so that your vibe, you can tell that, oh, my last objective is already published in so journal, is Q1 and all of that. But you get into the academia. Remember I mentioned the identity crisis period. You are still trying to find your footing, and then you are required to publish again. You are lost, you don't know what else to do. But if you have received some of your data from PhD, it becomes handy for you. So PhD is just for 3 years. Publish, yes, do your work to the best of it, but if you are able to reserve some data, it helps you. This has been my own story personally. Some parts of my data, I didn't publish them, and right now they become useful for me in the course of my work life. Also, for grant application, they always are interested in preliminary results. So if you have gathered data that you have not used, the preliminary result becomes something that can be useful for your grant application. You are able to write for grants in a manner that is related to your PhD work. I also said reserve some of your publications for post-PhD use. So it was just great working for me, though. It wasn't that I planned it. But one thing that happened to me was that towards the end of my PhD was when my publications were really coming out. And then some of them were under review while I got the job. Some of the things I said at the interview was that, I'm new from PhD. I have so many papers under review. The moment I get this job, the affiliation is going to change. So I'm going to publish as soon as I come in as staff in your organization. and I'll put your name on the map. The dean saw, he heard me and nodded at that interview. I just said what I was saying anyway. But alas, I resumed in January, 3rd week of January. By end of April, I published 3 articles. And my appraisal by August, it was something that my head of department really hammered on. And that's amazing. That has never happened. We usually have, because the teaching school, people are really busy. We usually have just 1 publication in the entire year. Some persons is just conference publication. When I came in 3 months, I had 3 papers published. Reason because I had reserved some of my publications for post-PhD use. As Grace would have it again, some of those papers I targeted Q1 journals. The Q1 journals happened to also appear in the ABS list for the school. So it became useful for me. So if you reserve some of these publications for your post-PhD use, it's going to help you, especially when you are just settling into your new position. Then I said, lump up your findings to trim in the future. If you have, what I mean there is that you have 3 years, probably you have 4 objectives. Instead of publishing 4 articles from your 4 objectives, you can lump 2 objectives into 1, and then publish a concrete paper with concrete finding. Concrete finding. By the time you start working, you can, that 1 paper that has 2 objectives in it can become 2 papers for you. Apparently now, as an academic, you are not really, it's not PhD where you are looking for Q1 journal. You can also chase quantity, not necessarily quality. So the paper is published with 2 findings. Break it into 2 pieces, 2 different findings, and you have 2 publications already from 1 paper published in your PhD. For my PhD, for instance, I worked on housing provision, affordable housing provision, and then I had the user's perspective, had the expert's perspective. I used housing supply value chain, which had land acquisition, housing finance, housing construction. My publications usually would have everything said. But right now, as I'm working, I'm beginning to distinguish between users and experts. So the same paper already published, I then throw them out again and say, so from user's perspective, from expert's perspective, from land acquisition perspective. So I'm trimming down my papers, which helps me to now have volume as an academic. These are tricks that could help you to settle in fast. Then lastly, I said, know your identity. I'm Christian, I said it before. It's impossible for me to speak and not sound my identity. So there's a mentality in Africa where the enemies, enemy of my father's house, enemies of my mother's house, and all of that. Those enemies did not kill you. You were on plane. You landed in Hong Kong, for crying out loud. If they really were against you, they would have caused you to crash. If they didn't cause you to crash, they are not against you. So you really need to know your identity. You need to know that you are a city set on a hill. You really need to know, for those who believe that you are fighting from victory. When you come into that identity that you are fighting from victory, it just helps you. I go to the office every day. Yes, there's racism, there's all of those things I say, but I don't see them because I know that I've come in the identity of Christ who I believe. So I come in every day to the office, I know that I'm a blessing to this place. When I said that in January, I didn't know that I was going to publish 3 articles before 3 months. And alas, this is a new year. In the new year, I had an accident recently while we were cycling. I knew that the Bible says that God makes all things work together for good, for them that are loved of God. I just had that at the back of my mind. But I was home on sick leave for 2 weeks. It was a troubling time. But you know that 2 weeks now had helped me to come up with, right now I have skeleton papers up to 7 already written, within the fact that I was within the time that I was on sick leave. If I kept going to work every day, I could not have achieved that. You know, so I have that mentality that I know who I am. I'm relaxed. I'm at rest. I work hard, but I know I'm working from a place of victory. So I think with these few points of mine, I'm able to tell you that it's possible to exceed and excel. Success is yours, like Prof said. Go get it. Thank you very much for listening.